Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, folks. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Marketing Your Practice podcast, the podcast where I get to simplify the marketing and the mindset so you, the chiropractor, can increase your income, your impact, and your enjoyment in practice too. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about the 3 types of videos that chiropractors need to be making if they want to break through the noise of social media, if they want to build a bigger audience and ultimately end up with more new patients coming into their practice. Now, let me start with this. If you're not making videos yet, then today's episode is perfect for you because I'm going to tell you where to start. And if you are making videos but you're not getting the results that you want, then today's episode will be helpful for you because we'll dive into what's actually working right now. So I'm going to talk about 3 types of videos and we'll really get quite tactical on them. Now, the first type of video that you need to be making are adjustment videos, okay? Now, these videos are going to be less than 60 seconds, and ideally, we actually want them less than 30 seconds. We want to be posting these videos as either Instagram or Facebook Reels. Now, remember, Facebook has Reels also, and of course, they're great for TikTok. Now, you've probably seen adjustment videos beforehand. The ones that are most popular are the ones where there's the real crunching, cracking. You often see chiropractors that literally are putting microphones next to the spine, and sometimes even in the post-edit, they're really cranking up the volume of those. They're incredibly popular, and they can work really well. A friend of mine and previous guest on the show, Cody Hainish, has built an enormous following on TikTok, millions of followers, hundreds of thousands across Instagram. And this results in a lot of business for his practice. Last time I checked with him, at somewhere in the vicinity of 20 new patients a week come in from him simply just filming his patients being adjusted. Now, what's magic about these videos is the reaction on the patient's face. And I think the joy also that's on Cody's face when he's adjusting the patient. Now, it doesn't have to be crunch or cracking videos. I was having a wonderful chat with a community influencer member yesterday who has a really interesting technique that he uses. All of his adjustments are done seated. And he films his adjustments or portions of the adjustment with the patient just seated. There's rarely any sound in them, but he puts a really groovy, very upbeat track music behind it. Now, this can be done in the editing platforms of both Instagram and TikTok. Or if you're editing your videos in something like InShot, which I really, really like, or Vlo, VLLO, both of those platforms have royalty-free backing tracks. But you want to pick a music track that's really upbeat, high energy. So again, let's summarize what we're up to. We're going to have a 30-second video of you adjusting a patient. Now, at the end of this, I'm going to talk about, because many of you might be hearing me now, I did in the early days too, how do I have conversations with my patients about this? I don't want it to interfere with the flow. I'll give you all my thoughts around how we engage our patients in this whole process at the very end, okay? So 30-second video, posted on a reel or on TikTok, a section of your adjustment. Now, you could film the entire adjustment, and then what works well is that you could kind of speed it up. I've seen those beforehand, and they get lots of engagement. Or it could be a section. Maybe you do some really cool extremity work. It could be you adjusting somebody's ankle or knee or wrist or shoulder. But what we want to be doing is making sure that we're filming part of it. Something important is that make it look like the patient's having fun. I wouldn't put a clip up there of something that might be uncomfortable. If you're doing an adjustment that's difficult for the patient, that looks like they're scared or terrified, absolutely don't be putting that sort of thing on there, okay? These videos will look best if you film them vertically, so with the camera upright. That's called portrait mode. This will allow you to actually maximize the space. Most people are consuming videos, particularly the reels, on their mobile device, and with a film, the camera actually set upright like that, it'll allow you to maximize the space. So that's adjustment videos. The second sort of video that I want you to be making are before to after videos. So this in some ways is a mini case study that we're doing. Now, they're great for regions, particularly here in Australia, where we can't do testimonials. We can't have the patient sharing the wonders of their results they're getting with chiropractic. But what you can do, and there are many chiropractors doing this, is showing changes that happen before to after. Okay, now, is there something in the techniques that you use that obviously changes? So could it be posture or range of motion? Think about the things that you could show easily in a video. Now, sometimes I've seen chiropractors that are showing subtle changes that happen with the breath. And sometimes this can be really hard to see and to come across on a camera. And if I can't obviously see it, if I don't know what I'm looking for, now obviously As a chiropractor, when you're adjusting somebody's spine, we're looking for subtle changes in posture. We're looking for subtle changes in breath and breathing patterns. But because we know what we're looking for, it's really obvious for us to see. But that can be very difficult for somebody that's a layperson to see that. So when you're looking at something that might change before and after, I actually think posture is one of the better things for you to actually show. But again, there are other things that you could show. Maybe it is, changes in leg length. Maybe it could be range of motion. There might be scans that you show. X-rays could be a fantastic thing for you to show before and after. Lauren, my gorgeous Lauren, my wife Lauren, does lots of great work with kids, and often when she has little kiddos come into her, if they're a little on the spectrum or they're having difficulties at school, their handwriting is really terrible, she does before and after of the handwriting. If you're looking after a child that might be a toe walker, for instance, and they should be walking properly, so changes in gait is another thing. Balance could be another thing. Whatever the actual thing that you're showing before to after is not important. What's really important is that it's obvious for people to see. Okay, this is a lovely story that we're getting to show. Now, it might be you narrating and talking a little bit about it and pointing it out, or it could be just videos without there being any sound, that perhaps explaining what's going on. Now, again, this video here, we want to be short. It's another video that's probably less than 60 seconds and ideally less than 30 seconds. And so this is a before to after video. So start to have a think, what is something obvious that changes that's objective? Okay, that's the other thing too, is it needs to be not subjective, but it needs to be an objective change. The third sort of video that you want to be putting in there is testimonials. Now, I had a lovely person reach out to me recently saying, Angus, we're not allowed to have testimonials here in Australia. You shouldn't be talking about testimonials. Now, the audience that listens to this podcast comes from everywhere, all around the world. We've got Europe and Asia and Australia, and we've got the UK. And so you need to, of course, know what you're allowed to do and not allowed to do. So here in Australia, if you're an Aussie listening to this, don't make a testimonial video yet. I think sooner rather than later, though, there is some legislation that's going through at the moment. Once the process they're going through, that means that we will be able to make testimonial videos and have testimonials on our website, hopefully in the not too distant future. So if you are allowed to make them right now, and depending on when you're listening to this episode, then you should be sharing testimonial videos. Now, even a testimonial post that might be just a screen capture of a Google or a Facebook review is powerful. But when we actually get to see the person that's sharing the story, it becomes even more powerful. Now, good testimonials have several ingredients, but a good testimonial is really, it's a story that we're sharing, and we want to go on the journey with the patient. And there's an ingredient in the story that many chiropractors miss. And when they miss this, the power of their testimonial is really diminished. And I refer to it as what's at stake. Now, when we're watching any movie at the moment, at any time for that matter there too, if we don't know what's at stake for the hero, then we can't engage with them. Now, we just watched, there's an Elvis movie on at the moment there too. And in the early days, we're seeing the development of Elvis. And particularly, there are many things that are at stake for him, but one of the things he's wanting to be able to do is provide money for his mum, okay, to look after his mum and take his mum out of the poverty. So we understand some of the drive for him going forwards. We hear and see very early on in life that because his father ended up in prison, they grew up in a very impoverished area there, and there was a lot of financial difficulty. So we understand what's at stake. Now, what does this look like with our patients? Now, if there's a testimonial and I'm merely telling you that I just had migraine headaches and then I came along and I went and saw Dr. Andy and now my migraine headaches are gone and I really love my chiropractic experience and you should go and see Dr. Andy. That's a reasonable testimonial, okay? But it becomes more powerful when I share what's at stake. And I'll give you an actual example of this. I was reviewing a workshop from a client who I work with, beautiful workshop that he's putting together. And he was sharing a powerful close at the end. He was telling the story about a patient of his who did have migraine headaches. And she came and got care with Chris, did wonderful. And it wasn't until at the very end, one of the things that he said one of the great things that she's now able to do, because she doesn't have her migraine headaches, is that she got pregnant and had a baby, and now she's got a wonderful baby. Now, to make that story more powerful, what Chris needed to do at the very beginning, because the reason she wasn't having a baby is she was heavily medicated to manage the migraines, and she was told that she shouldn't get pregnant, or she probably wouldn't be able to get pregnant while she was on this medication. And so she had this dilemma. she really wanted a baby, but she couldn't get pregnant because if she went off the medication, then the migraines were just so debilitating that she wouldn't have been able to manage being a mum anyway. So she stayed on the medication and she had no migraines, but she couldn't be a mum. She went off the medication and she could be a mum, but she'd have these migraines. So now, when I hear that part of what's at stake early on, I'm bonded even more to this person. I'm engaged in the story. And then when Chris, and if Chris had gone through and shared the story of how the great work they did, he got adjusted, they too made some subtle changes. Her migraines went away. She was able to go off the medication. And along with that too, the other gift that she got is that she got pregnant and she's now got an 18-month child. When we let people know in advance, early on in the testimonial, what's at stake, we now are way more engaged in the testimonial. Now, the way we find out what's at stake is we just ask some simple questions to our patient like, what were you not able to do because of the problem? Or what are you looking forward to doing once the problem goes away? This helps us identify what's at stake. Now, when we add that in there, as I said before, we will engage the patient. The other thing particularly I want you to have in there when you're doing your testimonials is I want you to ask the patient the very last question that you ask them. If there's another person out there that's suffering with migraine headaches like you are, what advice would you give them? And of course, if you choose the testimonials properly, then this person will, at this stage, say, you've got to come in and see Dr. Andy. He's just the best. We love the care that we get from him. Don't wait like I did. Go and make an appointment now. When it comes across that way, the testimonial will be very powerful. The way I recommend that you do your testimonials is that you get a bunch of questions all organized and you interview the person in front of the camera. In fact, I suggest that you don't do it. I suggest that your CA does it. We'll talk about that in a moment when we're chatting a little bit more about the administration of all of this. You ask all the questions, the person's looking at the camera, there's a conversation almost going on between the two of you. And when you edit that video at the end, you just edit all the questions out of it. And they have a beautiful flow that runs through that where the person is saying, you know, I came and see Dr. Andy because I had migraine headaches. I was on heavily medicated because of the migraine headaches there too. And, you know, I really wanted to get off the medication because I wanted to get pregnant. And I couldn't get pregnant while I was on this medication. You know, when the migraine headaches were at the worst, I literally had to shut myself inside of a room. You know, I wasn't able to go to work sometimes for days at a time. Since seeing Dr. Chris, life is like my migraine headaches have not only gone, but I'm now pregnant as well. So don't leave it for as long as I did. If you're having migraine headaches, please don't leave it for decades like I did. Come and see Dr. Chris. He and the team are the best. That's what the testimonial will end up looking like when you just cut all of the questions out of it there too. So let's summarize the 3 videos and then we'll talk about how we're going to the admin behind all of this. The 3 videos, the first is an adjustment video. It's a 30-second video, perfect for Instagram Reels and Facebook Reels, TikTok videos. You might go for the crack video if that's what you're going to do. Fantastic. But you could have the sound turned off. Even if you are a manual adjuster, but particularly if you're a more gentle adjuster, just a section of the adjustment, either speed it up, add some great music in behind it, okay? You can do before to after videos where you're showing an obvious change that happens before and after, and you can do some testimonial videos. Now, the testimonial videos are going to be longer, but ideally, if you can keep them under 90 seconds, then you can still post them as a reel on both Instagram and Facebook. That's where most of the attention is going. Now, whenever I have these conversations with chiropractors, one of the challenges, a couple of challenges that come up, we sometimes get a bit awkward about how do we go about asking our patients. And then the second thing is we also get a little bit like, I don't want to break down the connection that's happening with my patients. So I want to share with you, how do we enroll our patients in this vision? And I've got 8 tips for you. The first is this. Whether it be wanting to show before to after a testimonial video or an adjustment video, we want to make it mission-based. And when we can make it that this is not about just promoting our practice, when we can make this about reaching more people in our community, when we can make this about helping save other people, then you'll be able to enroll your patients a lot more. And so it might just be, you know, a conversation like this. You know, if Sue's on my adjusting table, I might say, hey, Sue, can I ask a favor? That's what I would start with. And Sue would say, yes, more times than not. I would say, hey, Sue, we're really wanting to share our message further out with the community. There are a whole bunch of people that just have no idea what sort of things chiropractic can help with and how it helps. And one of the ways that most people are finding out about chiropractic and the benefit of chiropractics, man, it frustrates me when people say chiropractics. One of the ways that people find out about chiropractic is social media. Would you be okay if we filmed your adjustment today? Now, most people are going to say yes in this situation, particularly when you follow through with the rest of the steps. But we want to make it about mission-based, about letting more people know about what's going on there, about saving more lives. The second point here really is to look for openings, and that is when a patient says something really great to you, you're checking in, hey Sue, great to see you today. Anything new or different? Yeah, man, I just had my first weekend without migraine headaches. Like, high five, that's amazing, that's wonderful. Celebrate it with the patient there too. And then you would go into that same kind of script that I talked about before. Sue, can I ask a favor? Yes, there are so many people out in our community that have migraine headaches. They have literally no idea that chiropractic can help them. And one of the ways that they learn that chiropractic can help is through social media. Would you be okay with us filming your adjustment today? Or I could say, would you be okay in sharing a little bit of a testimony of your results here today? Now, when somebody shares how great they're doing, it's a perfect opportunity for you to either ask for a testimonial, or it's a perfect opportunity for you to ask to then film the adjustment. So look for openings. And of course, tip number 3 is make sure you choose the right people. We always did a pre-shift huddle before starting. It surprises me how few chiropractors do this. They just get to work and get started. So we would sit down with our pre-shift huddle. We would go through who we're seeing for the morning. We would talk about what things they might need, where they're up to, their care. And it was just an opportunity for me to focus and think about them. What you would think about in the pre-shift huddle is who is going to be in a situation where we could ask them for a testimonial. You know which patients are more likely to say yes to a video and which ones are more likely to say no. Prepare in advance about which patients you're going to ask and look for those openings, okay? Number 4 is have your CA begin the conversation in advance. And so if you've decided again that it's Bill that you're going to ask, then your CA can begin the conversation at the front. Hey, Bill, can I ask a favor? We're putting together some videos of our patients getting adjusted. We're doing that as a part of our community outreach. So again, she's making it mission-based. We realize that there's a whole bunch of patients out there that just don't understand how wonderful chiropractic is. Remember when you first came in here and you couldn't walk properly there too? And one of the ways they find out about it is through little videos. Would you be okay if Dr. Angus videoed your adjustment today? Now, if she begins or they begin the conversation out the front there, then it could be something as simple as when Bill's card gets to you, maybe there's a green sticky note on it if I've already had the conversation and Bill is big okay with it. And maybe there's an orange sticky note on it if for some reason Bill doesn't want to have that done. So step number 4, if we're wanting to enroll our patients in there, is to have the CA begin the conversation in advance, okay? Step number 5 is to make sure that you offer your patients editorial rights. And so you might say, look, I'll film the video. When it's all done, I'll let you have a look at it first. And for any reason, if you're not happy with it at all there too, we do not have to post it. I promise, okay? You have full editorial rights over this. That's something I've found often puts people at ease also. Number 6 is always have a camera ready there too. One of the things that gets in the way of this is if we've got to go get a camera from somewhere and then we've got to set it up on the tripod, we've got to do all those things. This, first of all, gets in the way of the connection with the patient. It takes time, has us running behind. Now, many of the practices that I work with have a second camera set up in another room there for the CAs to be doing testimonials. So it's already set up. And then you could also have another camera set up in the adjusting area. Now, most of us, I've got a bunch of old iPhones lying around. They might have cracked screens and maybe the battery doesn't last all that long, but they're perfect video cameras still. And so we could have that set up on a tripod. So the speed of implementation is right there. If I've asked somebody for a testimonial, and the response is, oh, fantastic, Angus, I appreciate that. As soon as we've finished your adjustment, Mackenzie's going to just zip you into the consult room and she'll get that done. It'll take her 3 or 4 minutes tops. It's all set up. We planned on that this morning. Mackenzie and I had the discussion. All right, we're going to ask Jamie for a testimonial this afternoon if all is okay. And again, Mackenzie might already have that discussion with Jamie out the front. But make sure that you are prepared with cameras and equipment set up. And you don't need fancy cameras. You don't need fancy microphones. This can all be done with your iPhone. And even if your iPhone is a few years old, okay? Now, number 7 is make sure that you, with time, you'll be creating a culture out of this. Now, I learned this. Cody, who I was talking about before, is up in Sydney. At the time I was practicing in Melbourne, and one of his patients, he referred down to me. And I remember, lovely young guy, when I was adjusting this guy, he turned around and looked at me almost with a look of surprise on his face saying, aren't you going to film today's adjustment? And so Cody films everything. And it's the culture of what happens inside of his practice, and the patients love it. And so with time, as your patients are seeing, and hopefully you are pointing them towards your social media, and they're looking at it, and they're engaging with it too, you can create a culture where this almost becomes the normal, and they will start to wonder, when do I get inside of your videos? I know with Cody, a lot of his patients want to be on there. It's something that's exciting for them. So you can literally create a culture out of it when you're doing this often. And the final tip here when it comes to getting patients enrolled in this is be totally okay with a no. We all have days where we just are not up for it. A bad hair day, for whatever reason, someone might not want to be seen. Maybe you've got a patient who's actually in witness protection, something like that. But be okay with a no. And this, I got to tell you, I can't think of a time that a patient ever said no to me. Like maybe there has, but I can't think of a time that a patient ever said no. I was chatting again with the client yesterday who said that they actually have patients on their initial consultation form tick a little box to say, are you okay to be in our videos and stuff like that? But even if they tick no, because I gave the example back, if I saw that on your paperwork, I would absolutely tick no. I'm like, why does my chiropractor need to have videos of me? But it's not until I had to build a relationship with you that you enrolled me in the vision, that I started to get results, then I'm like, I see where this all fits in. Absolutely. So if you're one of those people that the patient has already said no on their paperwork, no doesn't always mean no in these circumstances. You could ask again, but pick the right person. That's one of the key things, the reason that we have been successful in asking our patients with this is that we actually make sure that we're picking the right person. When you're doing this, very rarely will your patients say no. Folks, that's the 3 videos that you should be making as well. A very brief summary of those 8 steps to make sure you enroll your patients in this is make sure it's mission-based. Look for openings when somebody refers or relates to you that things are going great. It's a great time to ask as well. Make sure you choose the person in advance and you're choosing the right person. Preparation's the key. Your morning huddle is great for that. Have your CA begin the conversation in advance. Think about giving the patient editorial rights. Always have a camera ready, okay? So the speed of implementation is important. Slowly but surely with time, you'll create a culture out of this, which will make it the norm. And then point number 8 is be okay with no. It rarely happens, but it might sometimes, and you never know why. Don't take it personally. Folks, that's it for another episode. As always, thanks for what you do. Keep saving lives. Your community really desperately needs you, okay? They need you sharing these videos to inspire them to come in and see you and have their lives changed. Until next time, see you soon. Bye. If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, you have to come and check out my Community Influencer Program. It's my monthly coaching program where we take all this material and I'll work with you to help you apply it, implement it, and systemize it. The Community Influencer Group Coaching Program is designed to help you increase your practice income, impact, and enjoyment. Join me over at anguspyke.com/join. That's anguspyke.com/join. I'd love to see you there.